We all know nothing in life comes easy, and most of your time is spent fixing the damage from the day before. Johnny Cash said it best when he said, "Life is rough, so you gotta be tough." Growing up, my family was huge Johnny Cash fans, and his music would play all the time in our household. There wasn't a second when I wasn't hearing Johnny Cash. Just as a little kid, I grew up listening to Johnny Cash's music. It got so crazy to the point where I would end up collecting some of his CDs and even have posters on my walls of Johnny Cash. And there's no doubt that his music has impacted me so much through my life. So today I'm going to be talking about how Johnny Cash grew up in his life and how he blew up into music superstardom and how he affected my life. So some background on Johnny Cash. John R. Cash was born on February 26, 1932, to a poor cotton farm family. He was the third child of 7 who grew up living a rather poor lifestyle. J.R. Cash would go on to join the United States Air Force, where they made him lose his initials J.R. and adapt a real name called Johnny. This would eventually benefit him throughout his time because it would sound better for crowds and for record labels. He would go on to serve 4 years in the Air Force, where he spent most of his time in Germany as a Morse code operator, where he would work on cracking codes sent from the Soviets during the Cold War. Cash had an older brother by the name of Jack who tragically lost his life in an on-the-job accident while working on a high school as a shop table saw operator. This accident nearly sawed him in half, and he actually survived the accident and lasted 2 weeks until he actually passed away. This would go on to shape Johnny Cash as the person he was after. His struggle in life would go on to shape the type of music he would make too. He started off by listening to gospel music on the radio and got really into gospel music, which he took gospel music and mixed it with country music in a way to the point where he made his own genres, kind of. He would eventually begin learning to play the guitar and sing on the local radio shows at a young age. So after Johnny Cash got out of basic training, he moved to Germany where he was stationed, and he ended up meeting his first wife. And after he served his 4 years in Germany, Johnny Cash moved home with his wife to Memphis, Tennessee. He would begin working as an appliance salesman and sell furniture and stuff like that, while also studying to become a radio announcer. Doing all this, at the same time, Johnny continued his passion for music and continued practicing guitar and writing songs until he got the confidence to actually go to a record label and audition. So over time, he decided to visit Sun Records Studios to try and receive a record contract. And after numerous times of failing, Johnny Cash eventually won over his crowd. After signing a record label, Johnny Cash would go on to drop 2 of his biggest songs right off the bat, Cry, 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 and Hey Porter. Both ended up going to the top 5 on the Billboard charts for the country music. While being signed to Sun Records, Johnny Cash would go on to release many other hit songs like Walk the Line and Folsom Prison Blues. Having the success he was having, Johnny Cash knew he was stuck in a contract with a small record label and needed more. And that's exactly what he did. He saw that people like Elvis Presley were moving up and up in the music industry, and he was kind of being stuck in his contract, so he decided to move away from Sun Records label and move over to Columbia Records. After signing to Columbia Records, Johnny Cash would begin to release some of his biggest hits. And this kind of shaped him into the person that he was going to be in the entertainment and music industry. Johnny Cash, over his time in music, would develop plenty of nicknames, like the Man in Black, the Highwayman, and people even began to call him the Folsom State Prison Man. Johnny Cash had a huge passion for prisoners, and he felt that he would see a lot of people in prison serving time he should be serving. So he spent a lot of his time doing prison reform and worked with the prisoners to try to make them feel comfortable and at ease. Johnny Cash would go on to have more than a 50-year run with music, and during this time, he would go through low and high points all the time. So, low points is when his music was not doing too well, and high points is when it was doing well. And during these low points, Johnny Cash would look for other ways he can make money and entertain people and still be a relevant name in the music industry. And he would do this by making TV shows. And on his show, he would tackle controversial problems and even adapt the nickname the Man in Black. So he was a talk show kind of show, and he would dress in all black with these white shoes, and he would just have musicians come and play on his show, and it was just his TV show. It was his way of kind of tackling issues and enjoying his time in music. Some controversial issues he would talk about was prison reform. Johnny Cash was a huge prison reform advocate and would even go to perform at prisons like Folsom State Prison. At only 48 years old, Johnny Cash was the youngest living inductee into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Even after this, he would continue to make music and tour with people like Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson under the name The Highwayman. Johnny Cash had plenty of ups and downs in his career and even struggled with drug addiction. His addiction would go and get him in trouble with the law several times, and he would eventually grow over this addiction over a long period of time. He got so attached to his Christian faith and that he didn't want to relapse with drugs so bad that when he actually was having heart surgery, he had a double bypass surgery, that he declined the need for drugs, and he even claims he had a close death experience and saw heaven, and when he was pulled back and woke up, he felt like he was cheated out of heaven. So throughout the years, Johnny Cash was diagnosed with a disease that I'm not going to try to butcher saying, but the disease was so bad that it would mix with his diabetes and kind of make it worse over the years. But while being diagnosed with this disease, he would continue to make music and actually drop music, some of his biggest songs like Hurt, which I'm sure everyone has heard before. On September 12, 2003, Johnny Cash passed away from complications with his disease and diabetes. Johnny Cash was a once-in-a-lifetime musician and an artist that continues to impact people today while being gone. He had a huge impact on me and tends to keep me intact with my old-school love of music. Music today is nothing like it was back then. In Johnny Cash's music, he would do a great job telling stories, and with his deep, somber voice, he would kind of relax you and make you feel like everything is going to be okay. The stories he would tell I don't relate 100% to because some of the stuff is crazy, but if you look at some parts of the song, you can feel that you are intact with it, that it relates to you. And this kind of calms you down, and it kind of keeps my head on straight. It makes you realize that whatever you're going through, you can go through it. Johnny Cash's life was filled with years and years of creative work and art, and even with him gone, he continues to impact people all around the world. Johnny Cash was a musician who did more than just make music, but tapped into the emotions of people all over the world. And his storytelling was like no others. And he continues to impact people while gone.